Hello, good evening. Welcome to One Pint One Song. This is the show where I chat to a different songwriter each week about one of their songs which they've just released or they're going to release very soon, and a cover which they love or a cover which they just love playing by an artist that they love. And thank you for joining us today. We've been off for a few weeks, but I hope you're enjoying the sunshine and the warm weather. Trying to stay cool here today is quite difficult, but we're here and the sun is still shining through the window, so there's a hint of summer. When we started this in February, it was very much a cold kind of theme, but I feel like things are warming up now as stuff's getting going, and I can see we've got some people online already, so hello, welcome to you. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button, Elliot Porter Music. We're also live on Isolation Gigs, which is our platform for podcasts and live shows, and live on Facebook as well. So press the like button, drop us your comments in the box, and I will try and bring them up and answer them. I see we've got a comment already. Hello, that's my mum. Hello, mum. And we've got a few people on board already, which is brilliant. So thank you. And if you're listening on audio, this podcast is going out live on Facebook and YouTube, but it goes out on audio on all your kind of favourite audio platforms, Spotify, Amazon iTunes, Anchor FM, about 2 days afterwards. So we'll probably be live out on Friday. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I think it's time to introduce my guest today. So very happy to have with me today someone who's very active in the music scene and enjoying a really good period of success at the moment with some new music out, and someone who I've been aware of for a little while through the kind of general music scene, various different gigs and radio shows and playlists, just really love the style, really love the music. So please welcome singer-songwriter Roxanne De Bastion. Hey Roxanne, how you doing?
Hi, it's by magic.
Yeah, there you are.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I'm chilling here. I'm cooling down a little bit. Been out in the sun a little bit today, and yesterday I was filming yesterday in London, so
Oh,
it
nice.
was very warm,
Mm.
but very nice to be out and able to do things like that. So no, it's all good. And how about yourself? What have you been up to? A lot of stuff, I think.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. I suppose we'll talk about some of that today. Today I've mostly been on Zooms and haven't had much chance to be in the sunshine. I'm really grateful for everyone who's already tuned in and chosen us over the sunshine. That's yeah,
Yeah,
impressive.
it's great to see so many people on already, because I can imagine a lot of people will be sitting out in their gardens. Maybe they're watching in their gardens. I don't know. That'd be
Oh
nice.
yeah, phones. Forgot that's the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I always forget that as well. I think, oh, everyone's not going to be inside, but actually they could watch us in the park. They could watch anywhere, I guess. So yeah,
Tell us where you're
um,
watching from.
yeah. Actually, yeah. Comment on there. And so one pint, one song. I know you've got a pint glass. You've got probably some water in there or something. Yeah,
I
brilliant.
do. I hope that's not too much of a cop out. Yeah, I tried to
No,
make an effort with the pint glass. But
it's fine. It's fine. Yeah,
cheers.
I say to everyone, it's completely up to everyone what they drink. I've got I've got a cider in a pint glass because
Nice.
it's very warm. So cider seems to be the drink of choice at the moment. So yeah. So yeah, tell us so a little bit about your background. So I explained a little bit that I haven't actually met you in person yet. Hopefully, will at some point come to a gig or probably see you on the scene. But I came across your music, I think, through recommendation from Minnie Birch, who's a friend of the show, I should say, and also Martin Lumsden, who he might be watching actually tonight. But I saw your music and I listened to your music on one of his radio shows, I think. So tell us a bit
Ah,
about where you're based and kind of your background and stuff.
sure. Well, firstly, yeah, likewise. So I think we were both kind of aware of each other, but we haven't really played at the same show yet. I haven't met in
Yeah.
person. But those are two people I like very, very much. Yeah, Minnie Birch and Martin Lumsden. Martin's show is great. So yeah, hello and shout out if either of them are tuned in. Yeah, I'm a singer-songwriter. I grew up in Berlin. Um, well, mostly in Berlin, a little bit of time in the West Midlands,
Yeah.
which is not a very common combination, I guess. My dad was a musician, so I kind of grew up with instruments around the house and lots of music around the house. So I was very lucky. I've always been into music, never ever wanted to do anything else. And then after school, the school system's a bit different in Germany. So you finish, I suppose, your kind of A-level equivalent at 18. And
Yeah.
after
Yeah.
school, I moved, I decided to come over here to try this music thing.
Yeah.
And here I am, like 10 years, no, like 12 years later now. Yeah, crazy.
Wow. And how do you find living in the UK and the music scene here? It's very vibrant normally, isn't it? Like, obviously, probably not so much in the pandemic, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't really know any different because I did gig in Berlin, and I'm sure, I mean, it must have changed since. Obviously, Berlin is fantastic for nightlife and for electronic music. For me, at the time when I started gigging as a teenager, it was really popular to sing in German again, which sort of goes in and out of vogue.
Yeah.
And I was a very stubborn teenager and not, I don't know. English is like my musical mother tongue, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I can best express myself. So I wasn't really that interested in doing that at the time. So I was just dying to play for an English speaking audience. And also I felt, I don't know, because I made the decision to not go to uni, much to my parents' dismay. I thought I had to go and do something. I couldn't just stay at home and make music. So yeah, so I just decided to come here. Didn't know anyone in London when I got here, so it did, just yeah, found a flat off Gumtree and
Yeah.
started working in bars and pubs, which now looking back all sort of sounds really precarious, but it was a very steep learning curve, but it worked out. So the music scene, sorry, this is a really long way of answering your question, but
Go for it.
what I love about the UK is that you can go into any tiny village, into any pub, and there's live music, and there are talented musicians. I think that's something that we take for granted here, but it is true. Music is so, or every like accountant has a Fender Strat in their
Yeah.
cupboard somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone goes through that phase here. So I love that, and I had no sense of geography when I got here, so I would say yes to any gig. I remember playing like a 20-minute set in Liverpool, got there on the megabus, and got the
Wow.
night bus back to do my reception job in London the next morning. So it was just this crazy crash course of playing as much as possible and yeah, getting to know the country. And I was culture shocked as well, which is weird because I've got dual citizenship. So my mum's a Berliner and my dad's English. But having grown up in Berlin mostly, yeah, it was definitely a bit of a culture shock as well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
still
And
learning.
yeah, absolutely. And I suppose the learning goes on forever, really. But yeah, it's a really interesting story there because yeah, it must be hard when you come over and you go, where am I going to gig? But I mean, like you say, luckily there is music in so many places, and even like you say, in local pubs there's like open mics and things, and people playing, and I guess that's the way that most of us start as well. I mean, I kind of started around London as well, just doing open mics and
So you grew up in Hertfordshire?
yeah,
Then.
Hertfordshire.
Yeah.
Yeah, so grew up in Hertfordshire, so I've always been quite close to London. I spent a bit of time up near Cambridge as well, so I played a lot in the Cambridge scene for a few years, which was really cool. And I went to uni up there, but yeah, I started off really doing the London open mic scene, and like you say, just going anywhere in the UK and just playing, and I guess that's a good thing that there is always options to go and play. And as we hope that the venues will be all open in the next few months. So let's see.
Yes, I hope they're all well and have survived. It's really nice to see. It was really nice to see venues reopen and do social distance gigs. And yeah, it's been such a strange and tough time for everyone.
Yeah, yeah, no, it has, and it's good to see. It's good to see kind of stuff happening again. We've got a few comments, so I thought I'll bring people's comments. We've got Les Spears says, "I'm inside watching the old-fashioned way which I
Hi,
guess is
Les.
on TV, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, on a
Yeah,
TV or
laptop, TV,
yeah,
inside. Yeah.
laptop. So yeah, brilliant. Um, Mr. Sesh is he's a friend of the show with Jack and Jasmine at Darkling Lane. Okay, cool. I think that's quite near me, so that's cool. And
Mhm.
Lucy's here as well. So yeah, welcome to everyone. If you've got questions for Roxanne, put them in the question box, and I will bring them up. We'll probably do them near the end, but we might bring the odd one in here and there. So keep them coming in, and we're here to kind of answer them. And so presumably you kind of started making singles, or did you go straight into an album or
I
kind of
did.
thing? Yeah.
I went straight to an album, which I now kind of pretend doesn't exist anymore.
Oh wow,
Um,
yeah.
well, what did I do? I, well, no, I tell a lie. I guess the first thing was an EP, but that was really recorded them at home and sort of burnt them on CDs and
Yeah.
like handwritten. So I sold them at gigs. And I gigged and gigged and yeah, wrote lots of songs until I had my sort of first bunch that I decided to record. Um, and I actually went back to Berlin to record it there. So then, yeah, it was just all very DIY, sort of
Mm.
self-funded. Did that first album and then did more gigging. Um, and I didn't really start releasing singles until way later. Just because it's such, I don't know about you, but there's no like handbook on how to sort of be a musician. And it,
Absolutely.
it
Yeah.
was just it took such a long time to sort of connect with other musicians and sort of the industry side of things and to learn like how you're supposed to do things.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, so that's what I did first. Yeah, sort of just handwritten, self-printed CDs, and then that first album called The Real Thing, um, and then oh yeah, then I did one EP with Ben Walker. I don't know
Oh,
if
Ben Walker.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
which I enjoyed that very much, and then finally, so sort of, I feel like that EP was the first proper recording that I did.
Mm.
And then in 2017, I released an album called Heirlooms and Hearsay. And again, that was sort of, I felt, I felt like that's when I really started making the kind of music sonically that I wanted to make.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because again, maybe you can relate to this, but as a sort of solo artist, there's so many different avenues you can go down musically, and I always hear things in my head. And I'm not a
Mm.
classically trained artist, so it can be quite overwhelming to try and actually capture that sound you hear in your head
Mm.
and try and yeah capture it.
Yeah. No,
It's a really long-winded way of answering again.
I completely get that, and yeah, I also feel like when you first start out, I remember when I first started out, I was so eager to get some songs down and recorded, and I don't think I really knew my sound. I just kind of went with what kind of came out, and I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I didn't really know how to do it, And then you meet better producers and you meet people that can
Exactly.
push you in the right direction, and yeah, been very lucky myself. Yeah, had some great producers who have helped me with my sound, and yeah, I feel like it's a few years later down the line when you actually find that sound that you want to make, and you kind of get happy with it. And how would you describe your sound? Because I've got like this kind of indie, but there's rock kind of elements in it as well, that I've picked out, and yeah, it's
Yeah, so
always
you mentioned, so
interesting.
you asked me about this before we went live, and I
Mm.
was very happy about that. And it's just really, it's really interesting because I think as soon as you pick up an acoustic guitar, especially if you're a woman, people assume and
Mm.
label you as a folk artist. So
Yeah,
for the longest time, I was kind of a fake folk artist, um, getting booked for all these, like not the proper folk clubs, but yeah, all those sort of acoustic nights. And yeah,
yeah,
people just
yeah,
assume that that's the kind of music I made. And then I'd play like a 2 minute sort of punk song on the acoustic guitar, and that really confused everyone.
yeah.
Um, so on this new record, so I just recorded an album with Bernard Butler,
Mm.
which is definitely why it sounds a bit more like rocky as well.
That's really
Um,
cool. Yeah.
So yeah, I finally found a Rickenbacker secondhand, which I've been looking for years and years.
Yeah.
So it's just to do with resource as well. You know, I could only afford an acoustic guitar, and that's how I could travel. So that
Yep.
dictated the sound, and that's not a bad thing. I love the acoustic guitar,
Mm.
and I do love a lot of folk music. So I'm not sort of distancing myself from that, but it really was just a means to an end, and the only way to make music at the time. So what is my sound? I It's always about the actual lyrics and the song for me, and then the
Yep.
sound. I'm a huge fan of 1960s music. So
Excellent. Yeah.
anything, anything that George Martin would do in a studio, I'm really into, like backwards guitars or nice string arrangements. Yeah, a little bit of psychedelia in with a very traditional sort of singer-songwriter thing. I think that's
Yeah.
me.
I love that. I mean, I'm a massive fan of 60s. I was brought up with a lot of 60s music ringing in my ears, and we will chat about quite a big band from the 60s later on when we talk about your cover.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and how did you get to work with Bernard Butler? Because that's an interesting story in itself, I imagine.
Yeah, well, I just cold emailed him, and
Mm.
sometimes that works.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big Suede fan, if that's allowed to say, but I'm a big fan of his production work. And someone I know just said, "Oh, like by the by, you should work with Bernard Butler." And I thought, yeah, that would be amazing.
Mm.
So I just looked him up and emailed the info at Bernard Butler or whatever it is, and introduced myself. And he got back and said something along the lines of, "Oh, I'm intrigued. Send me some demos. The rougher, the better," which was
Yeah.
reassuring because that's all I can do, rough demos. So I sent him some rough demos, Molecules actually being one of them.
Mm.
And then it just went really quickly. We met up at Bar Italia in Soho for another Britpop reference.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just really easy. I found out later on that he'd kind of already made his mind up that he wanted to work on the project, but obviously I didn't know that at the time. So
Cool.
when we met, he was just like, "Yeah, you should come around and we should sort of start recording and see what happens." And yeah, so that's my advice to any musicians: just send out all
Mm.
those cold emails, because a lot of the times you don't get anything back, but sometimes you do, and then it's always
Yeah.
worth it.
And when you do, look what can happen.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's really good advice. So we've just got a couple of comments I'm just going to bring up
sure.
before we talk about Molecules in particular. Um, I'm not quite sure I'd say this, but I'm also inside watching the regular way. It's cloudy here. Paul Hayward under a pseudonym. Ah, sorry to hear it's cloudy, Paul. Yeah, it's a little bit cloudier now than it was, but I'm sure it's going to be hot again tomorrow. And then we've got Les has a specific question. We might as well ask this. Roxanne, will there be any further gigs to be announced for this year, other than the festival spot already confirmed?
Yes. Big fat yes, Les. So at the moment, confirmed is the Victorious Festival, which
Yeah,
I'm very
that's
excited
cool.
about,
Yeah.
and a London show at Moth Club in October. And that will be nice because I did a live stream from there last year with no audience. So,
Oh wow.
it would just be a really nice sort of celebration moment to be there with people. And yes, I'm very, very excited to say that there will be more shows announced, but I'm afraid that's all for now.
All in good time. Yeah. No, that's really cool. I've never been to the Victorious Festival. I've heard very good things about it, and it looks really cool. And how did you find the live streaming from the venue, like when there was no one there? Because I was talking to someone about this the other day, and we were trying to work out whether we think in the future venues are going to maybe do a hybrid thing of maybe live streaming but
Yeah.
having audience in there as well. And I wonder what it was like when there was no, because I saw a few like artists doing the streams from venues when there was no crowd there. I imagine it was kind of a bit odd, but
It was
also
so
quite
weird.
yeah.
It was really weird. So I did a lot of live streaming. I did a whole sort of live stream tour right from this corner.
Oh wow.
But the Moth Club show, It was so good to be on a stage again and to be amplified. You know, just that
Yeah.
feeling of like singing into a microphone, and they even had like a smoke machine, so like there was a bit of atmosphere there. But there was something really eerie and terrifying about trying to put on a show but not having anyone in front of you. So it was, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
somewhat, there's like cognitive dissonance going on there.
Yeah.
We had like two people in the room, so I just asked them to clap really loudly. It was odd because it's just impossible to perform when there's no audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've really enjoyed live streaming, and then it was just really weird. So we pre-recorded that live show and then sort of streamed it as a pay-per-view.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I was sitting, it was really weird to be sitting there watching my show and like being in the comments.
As if it was live. Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
like that was weirdly nerve-wracking within itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I have to say, I mean, Les was there actually, and I think Paul Hayward might have been there too.
Cool.
It felt so nice. Like it really felt like we were in the same space, even though it was a virtual space.
Yeah.
I really felt the love, and everyone was like typing lyrics along or like clapping and doing the heart emojis, and
Wow.
so that bit was really nice. Yeah, trying to perform for an empty room is weird. Can't
Yeah.
wait for people.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was speaking to someone about this the other day as well, and it's like it's just that feeling of being in a room with people again. Like it's going to be amazing, that energy coming back. Whereas you know
Yeah.
we've all done so many live streams, and you do get the energy coming back through the comments, like you say, and when you're doing them. But yeah, just to have that sound of a room, I think is going to be amazing. So
Are you a bit nervous about it though? Because I am.
a
Like, I
little.
feel like I've forgotten how to do it. You know?
A little bit, I am, yeah, because I have played a couple of gigs, but they've all been outside, and I haven't
Right.
played on a stage in a venue for, I can't even tell you when. It must have been 2019 maybe, or early 2020. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be strange. It is going because I'm so used to seeing comments as well, you know, at the side of my
Yeah.
screen and just kind of talking to the screen. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, and but overall, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's obviously a big step forward for the industry, and
Yes.
I do feel like streaming's going to continue in certain ways, and it's amazing that you've done kind of a streaming tour as well. That's cool.
Well, I did that really on in the first lockdown, and I kind of scrambled to get it all together because I had the idea and I was convinced that everyone else was going to do it.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get there first, and then nobody else did it. And
No. No.
so that's where I met Les on that tour. So we haven't actually met, but I think it was my Manchester show that Les came to. Yeah, I just sort of teamed up with promoters that I knew or venues that I knew, and essentially just did like a social media takeover. So performed on their pages every
Yeah.
night and
Yeah.
treated it as much as a tour as possible. So, because you had the same like weird eating times, you know, so
Yeah.
like little things were the same.
Yeah.
Because I just released a single, and I really wanted to just keep going, but I wasn't sure how do you release a single and find a new audience if you're not gigging?
Yeah.
So that was kind of me trying to find an answer to that question.
No, it's a really cool idea. Yeah, I did a few takeover things myself,
Yeah.
and it is quite cool because you can find new audience that you know you might start chatting to more people actually because they're in the comments. Whereas if you even in gigs you might not chat to them or meet them. So yeah, it's quite a cool thing. We've got a comment here from, I think this is Paul Hayward again. Yes, the online streaming was great and we all sing along in voice and text, but no substitute for a real in-person gig. Well, there you go.
We agree. Yeah.
We've got a question for you down there, but I think we'll do that after we play the single because it might make more sense after we've heard. So, Molecules, yeah. So I came across Molecules about 2 weeks ago, I think, when I was kind of starting to listen to a bit more of your music, and It's really cool. I watched the video a few times, and I really like that kind of Rickenbacker. And we spoke before, didn't we? Like, it's a little bit. There's a bit of a Bond element to it. I think the video is quite. It's very visually kind of impressive, I would say. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I was saying that like my 12-year-old self will be pleased. It wasn't planned, that Bond reference, but yeah, when I was little, I used to play like GoldenEye on
Oh yeah.
Super Nintendo or whatever it was. No, Nintendo
Yeah.
64. So
Oh yeah.
yeah. No, so but that was an accident. But yeah, I love the video. I did that together with Graham Maguire, who's done like most of my music videos. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really cool, and we might chat a bit about the lyrics after we've heard it. That I mean, I I I knew you working with Bernard Butler, and the production. It's one thing I wrote down. The production's amazing. Like, it sounds brilliant. And one thing I really love is like it's probably a signature of that kind of music, but like guitars and strings as well, like
Yeah.
together. Like, I just think it works so well. It's something that I really love in sound. And is there maybe some synths in there as well, somewhere along the line, probably?
Oh yeah, there's a tiny synth line.
Yeah.
You're right, that is kind of a staple of his production work as well. That really lush sort of string arrangements. I love the strings on that track. I love how like weird
Yeah.
they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the interesting thing about that track, well, I think, it sounds really big, but so the drums or the percussion is just us like stomping on the floor
wow.
and clapping, and we just built that up.
Oh wow, I love stuff like that, because it's stuff that you would never know unless you actually spoken to the people that made it. And
Yeah, and that was really fun. It was felt a bit like sort of Joe Meek, sort of experimental. We recorded it all in his house as well, so it was like a really comfortable setting.
awesome.
So yeah, just stomping and clapping and lots of guitars.
Yeah, I mean, the guitars sound great, and yeah, and I love that kind of production. I love his production, so it's brilliant. So let's hear it. So for anyone listening on audio, you'll be able to hear it. For anyone watching on Facebook and YouTube, you'll be able to see the video, and we will kind of mute ourselves and sit in the background while we listen. And like I say, if anyone's got any questions for Roxanne, we can answer them after we've heard Molecules.
You can shout at molecules and see them react. That might be God, they might have mislabeled that. Rip out a flower and watch it grow back. That might be God, they might have mislabeled that. Hum a tune and watch concrete crack. That might be God, they might have mislabeled that. You can shout at molecules and see them react. That might be God, they might have mislabeled that. You can internalize opinion and call it fact, as if it's gospel. You might have mislabeled that. Smash it to pieces with a baseball bat. Thinking you're God, you might have mislabeled that. Glue it together and call it intact, and sell it on, you will have mislabeled that. Internalize opinion and call it fact, as if it's gospel. You might have mislabeled that. labeled that.
Wow. That was really cool. That was really cool. It's the first time I listened to it in my headphones as well, so
It got a
was
bit loud, didn't it?
it was really pumping. Yeah. And when you told me about the stomping thing as well, like I was like, oh yeah, that's really cool. I can imagine like putting it on in my car and kind of just listening to it really loud.
It has just been put on a road trip playlist, so there you
Oh,
go.
cool. That's awesome. That's really cool. So yeah, I mean the production's amazing on there, and it's out now, isn't it? I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so it came out 2 weeks ago,
Cool.
and is out now on all the usual suspects.
Amazing. And am I right in saying that I think it's something I saw, it got played on BBC London, was it? I think.
Yeah, it got played
Yeah.
on Gary Crowley's show on BBC London on Saturday. It got its
Awesome.
first spin on BBC Six, which is really nice, and Chris Hawkins'
Yeah.
show. Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah.
trying
And
to get it out there.
it's really doing well. And Claire says, wow, that was amazing, Roxanne. I loved
Oh,
it
thank
very
you so much, Claire.
And you artist of the week at Richer
Richer
Sounds as well?
Unsigned.
Richer
Yeah, yeah.
Unsigned,
So
yeah.
Richer Sounds have this thing called Richer Unsigned. So yeah, that was very nice. And that's actually, so it's their like road trip Spotify playlist that it's on.
Awesome.
So yeah. So I don't actually know, like they might be playing it in the shops. I've got no idea. But anyway, it was
Yeah.
very, very nice. Very nice of them.
I went to one of their events once a long while ago, but yeah, they have really cool like showcase events. I don't know if they still do them, but
Ah,
I hope, well, obviously probably not at the moment, but yeah, they always seem to really support new music, which I really love. So
yeah.
really, really cool. Les says some. Yeah, I didn't think about this, but I get that. Some Jesus and Mary Chain screaming feedback in there. Such a great song. It builds from an already incredible start into hyper level sound.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was exciting to finally make something really loud.
Yeah.
You know, I think for a long time, again with the acoustic guitar, I haven't really had that opportunity. So, yeah, it's fun to be loud.
Yeah, and I noticed about the kind of, like you say, the weird guitar sounds in the background as well, like the kind of, I don't know how you did it, but that sounded really cool as well.
Well, that was Bernard, and I did
Yeah.
film that, but I never asked him for permission, so I don't know if I can share it.
Oh, okay,
But
right.
yeah, it was the most fun thing to watch. Just him in the control room, like doing all sorts of like weird
Yeah.
stuff on top. Yeah, on top of the riff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, it sounds good. It sounds great. And
And I should probably just say that it's the opening track of this new album, and the new album is available for pre-order now, which is quite exciting. So
cool.
anybody who would like to know more, go to my Bandcamp.
Yeah. Amazing.
Mini
And what's the new album going to be called?
It's called You and Me, We Are the Same.
Oh, cool. Nice. Yeah.
So it's dedicated to my dad, but also just is a little bit of a statement about, well, we live in a very divisive world, so it's just nice to focus on the commonalities of which, you know, we all have more in common than stuff that divides us. So.
Wholeheartedly agree. and it is a very common theme of the world. Well, you know, the narrative in the world that's going on is that kind of division. And do the lyrics in this song touch on a few of those kind of things? I'm not sure, but I picked out a few lyrics which I really liked. I think there was one which is internalize opinion and call it fact, which seems very much relevant to the kind of world we're living in. Was that the kind of thing you were going for?
Oh yeah, for sure. Thank you for like listening so intently and picking that out. Yes, absolutely. I had certain politicians in mind when I wrote that, but The Emperor's Clothes was always my favorite story as a child. You know, it takes that one person to just point and say, but he's naked. He's not wearing anything. So I see that as sort of this like musician's or like artist's job to do that and point out when someone says he's wearing the finest of robes, but actually he's just standing there naked. So, and I mean, what a couple of years, you know, it's just been, we've all been sat at home watching news, and so much weird stuff has happened. It's not my most eloquent moment there, but like weird stuff has happened. So that's what I was trying to write about.
Yeah, it's true, and I've definitely observed that there's a lot more musicians talking about social issues and the stuff that's going on, because I mean, yeah, like you say, how can we ignore it? Because it's
Yeah.
right there in front of us, and it's happening, and it's, you know, we've had to see it on our TV screens and in our media and Facebook threads and things. So yeah, I think it's natural that that kind of thing's going to come out in the next, you know, in the next year or so, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have nowhere else to go. We've got nothing else going on. So
Yeah,
that's
it,
what we've all been doing.
exactly. And the idea that there's another lyric, well, the kind of hook like line, I think that
Hmm.
that might be God. They might have mislabeled that. I thought was
Yeah,
really cool as well. And tell us a bit about that if you can. Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So this was an odd song for me because I don't usually write the lyrics first. But this
Right.
one I
Yeah.
just wrote them all down. I get a lot of inspiration from watching like documentaries and interviews. I was just watching something, I was watching a documentary on YouTube, and I just heard someone say almost exactly that, as in that molecules react to noise and you can see them react. And
Yeah.
that just, it just blew my mind. And then I wrote down that one line and then immediately just kind of wrote all of it. So I was really fascinated by the idea that there is such a thing as like divinity,
Yeah.
that maybe it's not sort of this external thing out there, that it's sort of on that molecular level. And just fascinated by I was very bad at sciences at school, was terrible at maths, but always really interested in the concepts of like higher mathematics, and always really interested in pattern, I suppose. So, oh, this is going to make me sound quite hippie-ish, but just little things like there are 8 notes in a scale, and there are 8 electrons in a proton thing, and there are 8 planets in the universe, and just like little things. Like I think as songwriters, we always kind of look for patterns and connections where other people
Yeah.
might like not look for them, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like we pick at the threads and we find those little areas in between, you know, where people might not see. And yeah, and I do quite like, I love the idea that, yeah, just because something's kind of labeled as something doesn't mean that it is, kind of thing, you know. Um, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
we,
our history is full of mislabeling, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah.
You know,
And
we once thought the Earth was flat, and there are a lot of people now that think that again.
think, yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
You've got the Flat Earth Society now kind of rising up again. So yeah. Um, no, I thought it was like, it's got so many layers, that song. And yeah, I'm really glad. I'm really glad that I could get you on to kind of unpick some of the lyrics. I'm sure we could sit here all day and talk about many of the other lyrics as well. But we should probably talk about some other stuff as well.
Sure.
But yeah, I really love that track and hope it does really well, and I'm sure it
Thank you
will.
so much.
And we've got a question here. Claire says, "Whose music has influenced you the most, Roxanne?" That's quite a good question there. Yeah. So
It is also a very easy question. Usually, I'm only sort of within arm's reach of Beatles merch.
yeah,
So, yeah, I mean, I watched Yellow Submarine when I was very little, when I was 4. I don't remember this, but my mum tells me. And I just fell in love with the music and watched it over and over and over and over again.
yeah,
And it's still my favorite band. So my music taste hasn't changed, but I think Beatles kind of almost covers every genre. And there are so many different musical styles, and there's so much to explore. So that's definitely the band that's influenced me most. I mean, I already mentioned like George Martin's production earlier, and then they all have their. Sorry, I could go on about this for a really long time, but
that's fine.
so I always really loved John Lennon's sort of hard honesty in
Yeah,
songs.
yeah,
And he always manages to find such a perfect, sort of distilled, very simple way to express something very big. Sorry, I'm getting
absolutely.
ahead in our interview now. But the older I get, the more I appreciate Paul McCartney's songwriting as well. I don't know why that has to do with age, but because I suppose I used to find some of it a little bit cringy, but he's just such a master of melody. And
Yeah.
also he's got such an underestimated rock and roll voice. Like his voice is incredible.
He really has on stuff like Helter Skelter and
Yeah.
like I hear his voice and I'm like, wow, it is an amazing voice, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I should probably say, like, I was hugely influenced by Alanis Morissette when I was little.
Cool. Yeah.
She, I felt like I feel like I have a lot of vocabulary from her. And I've never had like vocal lessons, but I feel like she was like my vocal coach, just trying to sing her songs.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then White Stripes. So just definite nod to White Stripes in that Molecules music video as well. And I love Regina Spektor and
Oh, Regina Spektor, yeah, she's amazing. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so hugely influenced by her. I just
Mate,
love how
yeah.
free she is in songwriting. If she wants to make dolphin noises in the middle of a song, that's what she does, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And well, we definitely share a love of the Beatles because yeah, I always say that they're still my number one. Like like you say, I
Why
don't
wouldn't
think
they
you,
be?
exactly,
It's the only
yeah.
sensible choice.
Exactly, and they have like you say, they've got something for everyone. They've got they've got your rock and roll, your kind of ballads. You've got psychedelic stuff. You've got everything you could want in a band, really. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm a massive Beatles fan, and yeah, Alanis Morissette and Regina Spektor. Yeah, I really love Regina Spektor because I play piano basically, and her stuff's predominantly piano, and it's just awesome music.
Yeah, I absolutely love how she combines, because she's so classically trained, she's an amazing pianist, but how she combines those classical elements with, really wacky sort of folk pop is
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, it is amazing, and yeah, I'm probably gonna go and listen to her music after this. I think
Me too.
again. And do you like Bat for Lashes at all? Like I can hear
Yes.
some Bat for Lashes in there as well, maybe.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
really do. I have to say I'm not like overly familiar, but I mean that song Laura like gets me every time. That's
beautiful
beautiful.
song.
And everything I've heard I've really liked. So I should explore more.
That was one of my highlights, I think, of my live streaming because I kind of did one every week, and I got like a little kind of group of people that were watching, and people started requesting songs, and someone requested Laura by Bat for Lashes, and so I learned it, and I was like, this is such an amazing song. I loved singing it. It was like so
Ah,
emotive, and
love to hear that.
yeah, I actually should probably do because I started doing loads of like videos in lockdown, kind of lockdown videos where I just pick a song and do a video. But I haven't done one for a while, so maybe I
Yeah.
should do
I
that. Actually,
request
that
that
would be.
one.
Oh, okay, yeah. When it's requested, I have to do it. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll definitely do that one, I think. Um, we probably will go into a little bit of the questions that I ask everyone in a minute.
Cool.
But there's one thing that I wanted to ask you about because I came across these guys when I was in Midem festival in Cannes a couple of years ago. I think the last one they did before the pandemic, probably 2019, and the Featured Artists Coalition. So that people watching may not be aware of what that is. Could you give us like a very brief idea of what it is and what you do with it? Because I think it's really interesting that you're an artist and you're helping other artists as well.
Yes, I love the FAC. So that's Featured Artists Coalition. It's basically the trade body in the UK that represents artists' rights. It's a not-for-profit organization, and it's made up entirely of artists. So I'm on the board, and I often joke, and it's changing now. But like for the longest time, I could always say like I'm the token non-famous person on the board, because I think you met Dave Rowntree
I
from Blur
did,
there.
yeah, really nice guy.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's a drummer. He's a politician. He flies a helicopter. Like no human should be able to do all those things well, but he
Yeah,
does. So that's Dave Rowntree, and then like Ed O'Brien from Radiohead and Imogen Heap, whom I love so much. I love
amazing.
her work. So, but basically, they represent artists' rights and fight for artists' rights. lobbying government together with other organizations. Lots to do now with Brexit and other fun things that we won't go into. But more than that, I host educational events for them, and they're all just like peer-to-peer learning. And that I absolutely love that, because for me, it can be a really lonely endeavor being like a musician and a singer-songwriter in
Absolutely.
particular.
Yeah.
And when I look back, for me, naturally, like every time I got a little bit of a break, whether that was recommending a really good gig or a great promoter or anything like that, it was always another musician who said, oh, you should play here, or just musicians helping out musicians. So I think the more we do that, the better. So it's nice that this exists on a sort of more organized scale now. Sorry, I could go on for much longer about that, but it's educational events, and it's just a community for artists, because historically we've all kind of been pitted against one another in this very weird industry.
Yeah.
But we're not in competition most of the time, hardly ever actually.
Yeah.
It's not like someone's not going to buy your album because they've bought mine, or vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really, really useful for artists to share information. Like, what does your contract say? Or, how much did you get paid for that gig? Because only if we do that can sort of things get better, like, for everyone.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think that's a massively important thing that they're doing, and great work. And I was very, very impressed by what I heard when I listened to Dave and a few other people that were on the panel. I can't remember who the others were, but yeah, it was really interesting stuff. And you're right, because in fact, if I look back, all the things that I've done have normally been through another musician or a producer or someone that wants to help me out. And there's absolutely no reason why we can't all help each other out.
Yeah.
And that's what I like doing. That's why I like doing these podcasts and collaborating with people and, working with people, because, we all love music and we want to do well. So, yeah. Why can't we? So, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, this podcast is a good example. It's Minnie Birch recommended me, which is lovely. And now I get to meet you and chat with you. And that's just how it goes. So.
Exactly. And and we're very glad you came on, because it's been really fascinating kind of listening to the story behind your music. So I've got a few questions that I ask every week, and people that watch this podcast will be used to these. So they're kind of like, they're kind of quick questions, but where was Molecules written, or where was your album written, and do you have like a favorite writing place in your house, or in a coffee shop, or in a studio, or?
Well, Molecules was written in my old flat, which is actually just 10 minutes down the road from this one, in my bedroom. Do I have a favorite place? No. I mean, this room right here, this is where I do songwriting. Sometimes in the living room when I'm on my own, but that obviously hasn't happened in 14 months.
Yeah.
So I have no preference. The only thing is I need sort of peace and quiet when I'm writing, which is really difficult in London.
Yeah.
Because, you're always overlooked or overheard by someone. So I need to work on that. And the album was written so partly in London and partly in Berlin, because I was going back and forth a lot, because all the songs were practically written in a time when my dad was very ill. So, and that's why the album's dedicated to him as well. So it was a very strange time. And so the album was written part in London and part in Berlin.
Oh wow, that's a cool thing as well. And Berlin obviously is a very famous musical city as well. So with so many kind of cool artists that have gone and lived there, or been there, or come from there. And are you an evening writer, or are you one of these people that gets up at 9 o'clock in the morning and writes?
I kind of wish I was, but no, definitely an evening writer. Definitely. But having said that, every now and then when I do that, like morning coffee and then make music, I love it. But for some reason, it just never happens. There are too many distractions. There's always an
I
email to write or the phone
yeah.
pings, and I'm just not very disciplined.
I can say that the same about myself. Yeah, I think I could count on one hand the amount of times I've written in the morning,
Yeah.
whereas in the evening, I think my brain needs to kind of dissect all that's going on in the day, and then gets to the
Yeah,
evening, and then it kind of relaxes a bit, and then stuff comes out. I think, whereas
totally. It's like
in
sort
the
of
morning,
dust
yeah,
that settles, like
yeah,
once everything
definitely.
else has died down.
That's it. Yeah, the dust settles, and then kind of you relax a bit, and yeah, maybe some songs come out, or at least maybe a few lyrics or something. So, um, but yeah, the mornings have never been my kind of favorite writing thing, um, and I mean we can't really answer this question, but because we haven't been doing gigs, but maybe we can do it for live streams. So I always ask people like, did the song change when you first had it? So well, let's talk about Molecules particularly. Did it change from like when you were maybe like playing it live or on live streams to then when you went in the studio? Has it evolved and completely changed, or is it still how you kind of thought it would be?
I did get to play Molecules quite a bit before lockdown as well.
Cool.
So the whole album was recorded just before lockdown.
Yeah.
Um, so that riff dun, 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 was like written by the guitarist I play with a lot. So it's been
Cool.
I've had a few full band shows that I got to play that song with, and it's been really fun. It's just I feel the energy of that song.
Mm.
But then in the studio, it's had this whole extra layer of strings and stomping, and so yeah, it is odd to have songs out that haven't really had that playground practice run of being on a
Yeah.
tour yet.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see
It's
what
going to
that's
be
like.
it's going to be interesting, and in fact, that's what a lot of people have said. I feel like I'm putting songs out that I'm not sure how they're going to be received because I've never really played them live. So
Isn't that weird though? And
yeah.
it's so hard to put your finger on what it is, but I
Mm.
suppose some songs just sort of fall down in front of an audience and others sort of really grow. It's a
Yeah.
weird thing.
Yeah, it is. And sometimes the songs you think,
Yeah.
oh, the audience are going to love this, and maybe they don't not like it, but it doesn't kind of
Doesn't do what you think
roll.
it would do. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't do what you think it's going to do. And then maybe a song that you're playing on tour or something that you think, oh, yeah, it's a good song, but I didn't think people would go for it, and then they really do. So yeah,
Yeah. Or I suppose the song is never really fully finished until it's like road worn,
yeah,
right? Because even just little things like, oh no, the inflection in that third verse has to really go up there to
yeah,
like, yeah, make the most of it. So you just don't know those things until you've got a crowd in front of you.
absolutely. And sometimes I've been playing songs and I've been like, oh, they need another section, or
Yeah.
something needs to happen at that point in the song, and I've learnt that from playing it live because you kind of play it over and over, and then you feel it, don't you? And you go, oh, maybe we can change this. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to put music out which has never really been road tested. But in a way, it's quite exciting as well. So yeah, I think I've got one more question here. I think somewhere around here. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So if you could co-write with anyone in the world, um, who who would it be? We'll say living because
Yeah.
it makes it feasible.
Well, like I'm gonna have to say Paul McCartney, and I know this is like really predictable and very boring, but I have lots of friends in Liverpool, and it's really annoying that they all like they go to Lipper and then they get to do like not all of them, but so many of
Yeah.
them have like got to do a songwriting session with him. Like
Oh
only the other
wow.
day, a mate of mine, she got to do like a songwriting session via Zoom with Paul McCartney,
Oh wow.
and that blows my mind. To be honest, I don't even know if I could deliver. Like I think I would be too.
I think I'd be like, wow, I'm talking to Paul McCartney here. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not good with co-writing. It's I can only really do that well with well, you know what? No, that's I've got to stop saying that. It's not true. Like I have gotten into it now and I have successfully co-written with people. It's really fun when you're friends and it's organic and it just works really well. It's weird when you're in a room with someone you've never met
Yeah.
and you need to produce a song within 5 hours. It's like a really weird clinical thing.
Yeah.
I suppose the reason why I still say I don't like co-writing is because I really enjoy that mystique art of songwriting, like that weird thing in the evening when an idea just hits you and you don't really know where it came from. Whereas like there's so much to say for the craft of it, but it is less magical that, okay, we are writing, it's Tuesday at 11 a.m. and we're sitting down to write a song.
Yeah.
That's not to say that that magic can't happen there, but it's just not quite the same.
It's not quite as... Yeah, I know what you mean. It's not quite as organic and not quite as in the moment, is it? That when an idea just comes to you and you write it down or you sing it and you're like, wow, that's it. And I've always found this similar things. I've always co-written best with people that I know already, like that I've met, and I've kind of got a bit of an idea about like how they are and what music they like and like their personality. When it has been like, right, meet up with a new person in a room, I'm not sure that I shine the best in that kind of environment. So, but yeah, it's a wonderful thing, co-writing, but it is a bit hit and miss sometimes. You never know.
Yeah, and I do enjoy the challenge. I really like top-lining when someone like sends you a finished track and you write the melody on top of it. That's fun.
That's cool. Yeah, yeah. I like doing the opposite as well. I like because I work with some singers that don't play instruments sometimes. So I like kind of, they give me a melody and I try and shape the music around it.
Oh yeah, cool.
Because it's completely different to how I write. Like, well, I always seem to kind of write both things at the same time, or like I never really realise what comes first, and music comes first before lyrics usually for me. But yeah, when I'm kind of shaping the music for them, it's kind of like I'm not worrying about the melody, so I'm like, they saw it kind of already done, or I might need to tweak it a little bit to fit it with the music. But yeah, that's been an interesting thing I've been doing in lockdown a bit, and yeah, it's opened up a new kind of way of writing for me as well, just the music, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, all good challenges.
It is, and I feel like this year has kind of been a time to embrace new challenges and things like that. So before we talk about the cover, tell us what's in store for you in the next 6 months. I suppose we are halfway through the year now, I suppose, aren't we? So yeah.
How weird is that?
It's strange.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
So it's really exciting that I've just announced this album. So You and Me, We Are the Same comes out on September 3rd, and it's available to pre-order from my Bandcamp page and like actual record shops for the first time. So that's exciting.
Amazing.
And I'm going to release a couple more tracks between now and then. And then the show at Moth Club in London on October 12th, and maybe a few other shows. And that's, that's the next 6 months.
Awesome.
Yeah. What about you?
Sounds great. Yeah, very well. I've done an album, but it was like released last year, so I'm now getting back into like releasing singles again, like which I haven't done for a long time. So I'm just doing like one single and then another single and then another single, and then hopefully it will probably evolve into some kind of EP or an album at some point.
Yeah,
so
exciting.
I'm looking forward to just doing 2 or 3 songs before the end of the year, and then maybe a bigger project next year. But yeah, we will see, and hopefully some gigs. Yeah, there definitely will be some gigs, but I haven't announced many yet either. So just waiting to see what happens.
What happens? Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm really glad you chose this cover because as we've just talked about, actually, which the questions kind of have kind of come in together nicely. You're obviously a big Beatles fan. I'm a very big Beatles fan, and the cover that you've chosen is very interesting because I used to listen to it a lot. Like you say, you used to watch Yellow Submarine. I used to listen to Beatles albums like over and over and over and over again, and I think they just kind of, subconsciously just drifted into my psyche.
Is there one of them that you know best?
Probably,
or like what's your
Abbey
favorite?
Road? Abbey Road is probably the one I know best.
See, that's Paul McCartney's like shining moment, that whole B-side.
Yeah. And a lot of it apparently John Lennon said he didn't like. Like there was elements of it he was like, I didn't really like that or whatever.
that was his grumpy phase.
Yeah, yeah. And what about yourself? What album would it be for you? I mean, it's hard to
Well,
choose one, isn't it? But
yeah, it's a weird one, and it's not even an album, but where I started after Yellow Submarine was Beatles Live at the BBC. So all
oh
those
wow,
live
yeah,
recordings of just actual like that rock and roll.
yeah,
That is
yeah,
because it starts off with that hey, I'm Ringo and I play the drums, and
yeah,
it's the one thing that I know off by heart, where you know like every beat and every breath, and I just never ever tire of that. But yeah, I think Revolver is probably my, if I had to name one, that's usually what I go for, just because of that.
yeah,
You know, it's that phase of like those amazing Lennon McCartney harmonies, and
yeah.
where it just sort of gets a bit psychedelic, and yeah,
I love that album too. I think that would be my number two.
yeah,
That I would go to as well. And this cover you've done is interesting because I believe it was one of the songs which that they found a few years later when they did when they did the Beatles anthology,
yeah,
and Paul and George and I think Ringo was involved as well, and Jeff Lynne was producing it, put together. It was about 3 tracks, wasn't it, that John Lennon had kind of done vocals for, and Real Love was one of them, and that was always my favourite. And there's this really old recording of him
yeah.
playing it like on a really old kind of tape player and piano, and I really like that recording.
Me too. And the piano almost sounds a little bit out of tune as
It's
well.
a bit out of tune, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which it just makes it more magical for me,
Yeah.
because it almost takes me back. I can kind of go to where he's playing that piano. It always feel like I can kind of like picture it in my head, and it's interesting because yeah, I loved that kind of version they did with when all the guys got together and did it. But I also love that really stripped back John Lennon version, which I think they did release on the anthology as well. And then of course, Mr. Tom O'Dell did it.
Oh, I don't know about this.
Yeah, for the John Lewis advert, I think.
Oh, I do know about. Well, only I was very annoyed at the time. I was like, "That's my song.
Yeah, yeah. I had a
Where's
similar
my John
feeling.
Lewis ad?"
I had a similar feeling because I was like, "Oh, I know that. Hang on, this is like a Beatles song, like from ages
Yeah.
ago." And yeah,
We'll get it
I,
next year. 1 year, it will be
yeah.
ours.
Oh yeah, I'd love to do a John Lewis advert song. I did spend a while like trying to write a John Lewis kind of anthem. Then I kind of realised that what they do is normally they just choose an old song and then someone covers it, and
Yeah.
and it gets kind of like big. So, but yeah. Anyway, that's a tangent that we're talking about John Lewis now. But Real Love, yeah. So it's an amazing song, and the video that we're going to play at the end, we're going to play out to it. Was it recorded at a live gig? Was that kind of?
I think, is it like, am I sitting on a red sofa?
Yeah, so it's called something like the Comfy Sofa Sessions or something.
Yeah, so this is you should definitely play there if you haven't yet. It's a bookshop. They put on gigs. It's in Coventry. It's called the Big Comfy Bookshop. They put on wonderful gigs. I love those guys, and they do a great job. It's like it's always a real attentive audience.
Yeah.
And that's not the gig. That was like a little session that they filmed before.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So that's old now. That's a good few years ago. But yeah, that's the cover I chose to play there. And it's just such a good example of kind of what I was saying earlier. It's a really simple way of expressing something really big.
Yeah.
And I think it just says so much about John Lennon's songwriting gift that was one that he kind of put aside,
Yeah. Yeah.
Because for anyone else, that song would be like the holy grail moment of your career. Like, look what I've
It
written.
would. Yeah.
Just like little girls and boys playing with their little toys.
Yeah.
Seems like all they really were doing was waiting for love. It's just so beautiful.
It's so beautifully simple, and like you're completely right. John Lennon was the master at that. Like,
Yeah.
beautiful simplicity, and I like the way you've covered it, and I think you've because I play it on piano and you play it on guitar, so there's a differences in some of the chords, I think, but they really work really well. And
Thanks. This is me copping out of learning how to do anything properly. Like it's just like, oh, that will do. Yeah. So
well, it's got some really odd
got away
chords
with
in
it.
that. It's got some really odd chords in that song.
Yeah.
That come out of nowhere, and they catch me out every time I play it. Like I'm like, oh yeah, it's that strange chord, but I can't remember what it is.
A lot of Beatles songs are like deceivingly simple like that. Like there's always the 1/7, or there's always something in there that makes it not as simple as it sounds.
Absolutely. Everyone thinks that the song's going to be simple. Then when they try and play it, they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
They're going to a chord which you wouldn't normally find in this key, or and that's what I love about them. Yeah, they threw things in. They weren't afraid to throw things in, and they just did, and and they went for it, and they're amazing. So, but yeah, this song we're going to play out on this song because I think it's brilliant. Again, we'll sit back and we'll just listen to it, and everyone that's listening on audio can hear it, and this will be going out on Friday as an audio podcast. Thank you to everyone for watching. Thank you for watching on Facebook. Thank you for sticking with us when the weather's so hot and sunny. Very much appreciate it. And we've got 2 more weeks left of 1.1 Song before I take a proper summer break for a couple of months, and then we'll be back in the autumn time, probably September, October, for a whole new series of another load of fantastic singer-songwriters. And please keep subscribing to the channel and dropping your comments in and following us. Please follow Roxanne. What's your website? Is it Roxanne De Bastion?
Follow me. Yeah, it's just roxannedebastion.com, and I'm Roxanne Music on Twitter and Instagram. So,
excellent.
Yeah, keep in touch.
And above all, thank you very much for coming and joining us tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure. And
you're so welcome. Thank you for having me. Happy to chat about Beatles anytime.
Always amazing to meet another Beatles fan like me. So yeah, it's brilliant. We've got a couple of comments here. Claire loves this one. Tony, thanks both. Great stuff. Thank you, Tony. Thank you for tuning in. And Les, so good to have watched this. Thank you both for an interesting and entertaining stream. Well, thank you, Les.
Thanks, Les.
And please come back again. Come back and watch us next week as well. So thank you, Roxanne. And we're going to play out with your version of Real Love by John Lennon.
Hi, my name's Roxanne De Bastion. This is the Big Comfy Sofa Sessions you're watching, and my comfy cover is a John Lennon track called Real Love. I love the song. I've played it for a while. I'm a bit upset that it's been used in a very well-known advert right now, something to do with penguins, but I suppose the more people hear the track, the better, so I hope you enjoy it.
All my little plans and schemes lost like some forgotten dream. Seems like all I really was doing was waiting for you. Just like all the girls and boys playing with their little toys. Seems like all they really were doing was waiting for love. No need to be alarmed. No need to be alone. It's real love. Oh, it's real. It's real love. It's real love. From this moment on, I know exactly where my life should go. Seems like all I really was doing was waiting for love. needs to be afraid? It's real love. Oh, it's real. Oh, it's real love. It's real love. Thought I'd been in love before, but in my heart I wanted more. Seems like all I really was doing was waiting for you. No need to be alone. Who needs to be alone? It's real love. Oh, it's real. Oh, it's real love. It's real love. Oh, it's real love. Yes, it's real. Oh, it's real love. It's real love.